Haccp? What is Haccp? How does it work? Why do I need to be certified? What does it involve? That is all we're going to be discussing in the next hour. So what am I trying to achieve from this class? The basic thing is to set the background and the purpose of Haccp. Why is food safety important? We're going to be talking about the responsibility of individuals. Then we'll go about the concept of food safety. What is food safety? Why is food safety important? Then what does Haccp do in a food operation? Then we'll conclude this presentation tonight about the need for certification. Why should you stand out? So who should be in this class? If you do anything that has to do with food, then you are in the right place. If you have to do anything where you handle food, then this is a class for you. Then I will try as much as possible to make sure that we are done in an hour. There's no assessment, a pre or post test for this class. However, if you want a certificate of attendance, we can make that happen for you. This course material I'll be presenting will also be available for you for just a nominal fee. So if you want this material as well, just contact the administrators and they will get that for you. So, anybody here today know what a Haccp system is? Let's have this discussion. Who can tell me what Haccp is here today? I'll be happy if you will just unmute yourself and tell us. What do you think? What is Haccp? Oh, don't go quiet on me. Don't go quiet on me.
Okay.
Hazard analysis, critical control point.
Great. And what does that mean?
It means identifying points where you have, in a food processing system, where you have hazard, the hazard could occur. So those points, you identify them, they are called critical points. Then you look for ways to control and control the hazard at those points.
Absolutely. I mean, that is all we're going to talk about today. In a layman's term, I always define the concept of Haccp as understanding what can, what could, what should, or what will go wrong in a food processing operation. It is about understanding what can make my food unsafe, hazard analysis, then putting a mitigating strategy to it, controlling it. That's all about. It is about understanding, again, what will go wrong in my operation, what will make my food unsafe, hazard analysis, the first two. Then critical control point, what do I need to do to make sure I fix that hazard? That is all what Haccp is all about. So, like it says, it is about, it is called the hazard analysis critical control point. It is understanding what risk exists in my food processing operation. And when we talk about risk for Haccp, it is about eliminating, preventing, and reducing this hazard. In some operation, you can completely eliminate that hazard. In some operation, you want to prevent it from happening. And in some operation, you want to reduce the barest minimum level. So, if you want to define it scientifically, what is it? It's a system where hazards, or emphasis on the word, potential hazards, known as are identified, known as critical control point. And once identified, we put procedures and documentation in place to make sure that those hazards are controlled. That's exactly what it is. So, taking it one more step, anybody give me an example of a procedure we have set in place to eliminate a potential hazard? So, any operation you know that you tell me the hazard, you tell me the critical control point. Don't go quiet on me. We are discussing. So give me an example of your hazard analysis, your operation and the critical control point.
Okay, good evening all.
Good evening.
Okay, for example, when milk is being processed, the pasteurization stage can serve as the critical control point.
Correct. So in milk, when you have raw milk, it has potential biological hazards. So what do? You pasteurize milk. When you do that, your pasteurizing is controlling biological hazard. Good. Another one. Somebody wants to give us another one. This is a discussion.
Another example.
Yes.
During the treatment of water, the stage where you need to pass it through the UV light for a particular amount of time can serve as a critical control point. Because at this point, we eliminate any remaining hazards that has passed through the other stages of treatment.
So water from a raw source, from a natural source, will have biological hazards. So when it goes through your UV, your ozone, your osmosis, whatever operation you use, that's a critical control point, because at that point, what are you trying to do? You are trying to eliminate biological hazard. In a bakery, for example, after you put everything, you run it through a metal detector to make sure that no metal fragments are left in the product. What is that? The foreign material, that's physical hazards. And running it through a metal detector is what? Is the critical control point. So what are some examples, more examples? Temperature. So somebody gave an example of pasteurization right now. So with pasteurization, making sure that it has to hit that type temperature combination, that is a critical control point. When you run your restaurant and you're telling all your employees they have to wear hairnets, they have to wear gloves, they have to do that. Why? So that they don't contaminate your food. Those can serve as examples of critical control points. When you put specifications and formulations in charge, okay, I have my juice, it has to be this pH, it has to be this water activity, it has to be this TA, titratable acid. Those are examples of controls, because if you don't put those things in place, the food may go bad. Or when you have your metal detectors, your filters, your screens, your X-ray to look for metal objects or metal fragments, those are examples of critical control point. So what are we trying to do? Essentially, you all do this in your operation. One way or the other, you have all these activities highlighted because you want to produce a safe food. So to ensure safety and quality within your organization, to make sure that your food is safe, you must develop a hazard analysis and critical control point. I did not say this. Codex says this. And I think I don't need to tell us who or what Codex is about. But for those who don't know, Codex Alimentarius, that's the organization that regulates food all over the world. So Codex says if you handle food at any stage or any level, if you handle food, you must have an example. Sorry, you must have a food safety plan that is developed under this Codex system. So let me give a little bit example of how did Haccp come about? What is the history of Haccp? What is the history behind this? So in 1959, the first time they were going to go into space, the astronauts were determining that, hey, we want to go to space, but we don't know what we're going to meet there in the space. Nobody has ever been there. We don't have a history. So these guys that were going to go to the space, they said, okay, based on what we know about space and based on what we have heard, we think if we take this kind of food and we do this to it, if we take this kind of food and we take this to it, we should be fine. And that was how the astronauts in 1959 were able to take food to the space in the first time. So in 1963, the World Health Organization, they came up with the first Haccp guidelines. Then in 1973, there was a bad outbreak of by Pillsbury Brook food in the US. And that was when they now said, guess what? That concept that was determined several years ago, can't we borrow it and make it a universal standard for food safety. And that was how Haccp evolved over time. That in the US, it became a regulation. Then WHO accepted it? Then Europe accepted it. Then all over the world. And then I came to Africa in 1998 when the Food Agriculture Organization of Africa and all of them adopted that principle. So in 1990, the World Health Organization adopted Haccp on a larger scale, saying rising numbers of food poisoning cases worldwide lead the World Organization to advocate Haccp as a recommended way to ensure better safety standards. Let us look at it this way. I always explain it that some of us know bread or your bread, and we know bread Agege. Or your bread is very rubbery and very tough on the outside. If you know it, it always had that burnt crust. But you know how Agege bread is, very soft and tender. The argument is that what is the quality bread, or your bread or Agege bread? It's going to be subjective on the customer. That is food quality. It depends on what the customer likes. So quality can be negotiable. However, food safety is non-negotiable. It's either the food is good or not. It's either the food is bad or not. So for food to be edible, for food to meet the standard of food safety, it just got to be safe, meaning it has no hazard. So, how does Haccp play in this picture now? So it's a systematic approach in identifying, evaluating, and controlling food safety hazards. It is that systematic approach, like I call it, where you look at your operation, you look at the food you are making, you look at the product you are packaging, and you understand what can go wrong, what will go wrong, what should go wrong, what will go wrong, and you put strategies in place to make sure that at no point would we produce unsafe food. So it is about identifying and controlling it. When you can identify and control it, then your operation is good. Looking one more into how Codex defines it. Codex says it's the systematic approach, again, to the identification, evaluation, and control of food safety hazards based on the 7 principles. And we'll talk about the 7 principles in a minute. So why do we need this? Why should I embrace the Haccp concept? Why should I use a Haccp concept? Number one, the Codex Alimentarius recommend a Haccp-based approach as a means to enhance food safety. So if you handle food at any point, Codex says Haccp-based approach is your number 1 standard to food safety. You will see me or hear me use the word food safety and Haccp interchangeably. Definitely they are the same. The concept of Haccp, like I said, is all about food safety. Number 2, this concept helps us to protect the consumers from consuming a bad product. You don't want to sell a bad product. You don't want to consume a bad product. So if you as a manufacturer, most of the time, we're also the consumers. And so we do not want to kill people. You don't want to get people sick. So using Haccp is one of the best way to prevent the production of bad food into commerce. Provide assurance that food is suitable for human consumption. It maintains confidence in international traded food. Right now, food is going all over the world. They make food in Nigeria today, is already in Ghana tomorrow. They make it in Nigeria today, is already in London next day. They make it in Japan today, is already in China the next day. Food is going all over the world. And right now, one of the ways of establishing that the food source is adequate, is compatible, is credible, is in the certification and use of Haccp-based methodology for food safety. Then it provides health education programs which effectively communicate the principles of food hygiene to the industry and to the consumers. Then lastly, you want to produce food which is safe and stable for human production through focus on critical control points. It's about you being able to sleep at night as a food processor, that you are sure that the product you are packaging is safe. It's about you putting your head to rest, knowing that every package or every box of product leaving your facility is safe. So the purpose of Haccp is to ensure food, the production of food is safe. The goal is now to ensure that the three types of hazards we have, biological, physical, or chemical, are absent or controlled to a reasonable level in your food. And so it is based on a preventive measure and not a reactive measure. When you use the concept of Haccp in your operation, you already know what can, could, should, will go wrong, and you're already preventing it from happening. So it helps you to be on the proactive side and not on the reactive side. So getting into the meat of it, what is the concept of Haccp? Like I said, it's all about food safety. It is not about product testing. A lot of people put emphasis that when we test the product at the end of the day, we'll be fine. No, Haccp is not about product testing. Haccp is about understanding what hazards are in your operation and controlling them. It's about determining the severity and the likelihood. If this thing happens, how bad is it going to be? What are the consequences? It is about understanding what training do I need to give to my people. And it is about writing it down and having a good document to justify what I'm doing. So again, three things that are very important in Haccp: identifying, like I said, understanding what can, will, could, should go wrong. Then putting controls in place, meaning what will we do to make this food safe? What are the non-negotiable parameters? What are the finalities in this? Then ensuring that at the end of the day, the product that is leaving your facility is safe for human consumption. So your Haccp program, when you develop it, must cover your entire process from start to finishing, from your raw material receiving to the time the final product leaves your facility. Your Haccp must include every step of your operation. So at every step in your operation, from receiving to storage of raw material, to your preparation processing, to your packaging, to your storage, your distribution, it has to. For example, if you make a dairy product, your yogurt or your ice cream, and you don't control temperature during freight, during logistics, you're going to damage your food. You won't get your shelf life. So at every step, your food safety program must be included. Your food safety program must include every step of your operation. So what are the objectives? What are the objectives? Like I said, prevention of foodborne illness. You don't want to get people sick or killed. The reduction of cost of food analysis. If your food safety program is thorough, if it is detailed, you would depend less on finished product testing. Then you save money on your cost per unit. Then you have a more efficient QA system because your system is more defined, it is more streamlined, and it goes seamlessly. Then reduction of losses due to recall or product on hold or quarantine. Then protection of your reputation. You are keeping your company name. So what are some benefits? Why do we even do this? It saves your business money on the long run because you're not going to make unnecessary spendings in the organization. It avoids poisoning your customers. Then your food safety standards increases. You ensure you are compliant with the law. I don't like to scare people, but I'm telling you that food safety is becoming very important globally right now. Here in the US, a few years ago, we had a company, we call them the Jensen Brothers. You can read it up. Just try the Jensen Brothers online, you'll see them. They used to make fruit cups and salads and ready to eat fruit cups where you have your orange, your apple, your cucumbers, put it all in a cup and people ready to eat. They had listeria in the product. The two brothers are in jail right now. There's a company we call here the Peanut Corporation of America. They used to make peanut butter. They made peanut butter and a few years ago, and they had salmonella in the product. The QA guy got 25 years. The plant manager got 30 years. There's a company in China that makes baby formula, baby food, infant food. They had a product that got into markets that was not supposed to be, and they got about 9 children killed. The GM of that facility was actually executed by firing squad. A lot of food producers are in jail right now. We have a company here in the US we call Bluebell. About 2 or 3 years ago, they had listeria in ice cream. The Department of Justice are suing them right now. So what am I saying? Globally, there is emphasis on food safety, that you just have to provide and process safe food. If you don't do it, the law is coming for your behind. So having a strong and credible food safety program that is detailed in Haccp is what can help you to process good food. So what are the focus? What is the focus point of Haccp? What do they stand for? Number one, like I said, it again, focus on prevention and control of potential or applicable hazards. Then understanding what major risk with your problem. We always say this general saying that the problem identified is half solved. But if you don't identify it, how do you solve it? Haccp is the tool for you to understand the risk and the hazards in your operation. Then it reduces foodborne hazards. Then it meets global regulation. They had the Olympics this year. And one of the requirements of the Olympic Committee was that for all the food that were consumed during the Olympic, they said they have to be packaged in a Haccp and GFSI certified facility. The company I work for, I probably wrote almost 20 of those letters certifying companies that they meet description of Haccp and food safety. So regulations globally, they are increasing, especially when you look at import and export of product into commerce, that you have to meet international regulations. And Haccp is one, having a strong certified Haccp programs is one of the ways that you can show a robust food safety program. And let's just see how this goes around the world. In Canada, they got the Safe Food for Canadian regulations. And this law says you have to have a preventive control program, which is also similar to a Haccp program that identify hazards and shows how you control them to a reasonable level. So in Canada, it's the law. In the UK and the EU, that law, again, requires that all food manufacturers in UK must have a Haccp program. In China, the China Standards Board of 2009 requires compliance with Haccp regulations. In India, the Quality Council of India says for you to be able to sell food in India, Haccp is a prerequisite condition. You have to have Haccp. Same in South Africa. South Africa says for you to be able to deal with food in South Africa, you must have a Haccp program. In Australia, the same, that you must have a Haccp-based program. In the US, it's the same thing. Different regulations for different food categories that says if you deal in any of these food programs, you must have a Haccp-based program. Same thing with Japan. And like I said, the Tokyo Olympic that was done, they required that all producers, everybody that brought food to the Olympics, they must have a Haccp program and they must also have a GFSI scheme. Look at Nigeria's next door neighbor, Ghana. Ghana started requiring Haccp several years ago, and they said that all food manufacturers in Ghana, they must have, and it actually showed that the company that makes this adult beverage, Casapreco, they were one of the few ones that got Haccp certified in Ghana. So Haccp is becoming very important for trade. As we begin to look at the global market for food, Haccp is becoming a mandatory requirement to trade foods in developing countries. So if people are you're looking into moving your food all around, there growth potential for you if you begin to learn and imbibe the culture of Haccp. So who are the stakeholders in Haccp? Everybody has a role. So that is why we say that if you have to do anything with food, either as a farmer that grows the raw material, or the manufacturer where you process, or the consumer who is eating, or the government, the regulators, we all have a role. And that is why we all need to know what's important for us to be able to produce safe food. As we move on, it's very important for me to make some distinction about the food safety system or a food safety plan. A food safety plan is that written document, is that plan that you have where you detail everything in writing, what you are doing to make food safe in your facility. While the Haccp system is the overall, the sum total, the concept of what am I doing with food to make sure that biological, chemical, and physical hazards are not present in my food product. So it's always interesting to know what the system is and what the food safety plan is. However, the Haccp system is not a standalone program. It doesn't stand by itself. It's a combination of the preliminary steps and the Haccp principles. We put them together, and that is what forms the written document of the Haccp plan that we talked about. So when you want to do a Haccp or implement Haccp in your facility, we have what we call the preliminary task. So today, I have a food company, I call it Data Systems Food. I want to start processing food. I am starting. I need to develop a food safety program. I need to do what we call the preliminary task. And in the preliminary task, it has 5 basic components. What are they? Number one, you need to assemble a team. Always need to have a team. You should have a food safety team, a food safety committee, always. Then you should describe and know the product you're making. Describe the product characteristics, the ingredient, the packing, etc. Then you want to know who you are making the product for. Who is your target customers? What's the targeted consumers of that product? Then number 4, construct a flow diagram. And lastly, verify that flow diagram. These 5 steps is typically what we call the 5 preliminary tasks of Haccp. After you do that, then you now get into what we now call the 7 steps of Haccp. When you come to the real Haccp class, we always talk about it. Globally, through the codex direction, the 7th step of Haccp is the same. One of the shortcomings of Haccp that I've seen is when people have a Haccp plan and it does not follow the 7 steps. So those are some of the common mistakes. So if you do or prepare a Haccp plan, it must, as a matter of certainty, follow these 7 steps of Haccp. And let's run through them briefly. What is the process number 1? You need to perform a hazard analysis. And what is performing a hazard analysis? It is what I've explained before, understanding what can, would, could, go, should go wrong in your operation. What are the risks? What are the hazards? Understanding and identifying them. That is the number 1 step in developing Haccp plan. Then number 2, develop a critical control point. So what do I need to do to fix it? So somebody gave an example the other time. I'm pasteurizing milk. I know that with my pasteurizing, I'm going to control my hazard, my biological hazards. I'm processing water. When I run my water through a UV, I'm doing that. I'm making bakery products. I run them through a metal detector. When I run them through a metal detector and X-ray, I'm controlling. You determine your critical control points. After that, you now set what we call critical limits. And in setting critical limits, we are setting what we call tolerances. You are setting acceptable from non-acceptable. So now I want to pasteurize. At what time and temperature combination will I pasteurize? I am setting a metal detector. What's my level for ferrous, non-ferrous, stainless steel? What is my critical limit? Then I do the fourth step, establishing a monitoring level. Monitoring just means my checking. How many or how often, how many times a day or how often will I check? Every hour, every shift, every 30 minutes, every lot, every batch. How do you check? You said that. Then number 5, establish a corrective action. If anything will go wrong, what do I do? Are things going to go wrong? Yes. Will you have non-conforming product? Yes. Will you have product that will not meet specification? Yes. So you establish corrective actions by understanding what can go wrong. Then you establish verification procedures. Verification means, how do I check? How do I check down the line? How you establish that. Then lastly, you establish what we call a record keeping. If you don't have a document to back it up, it did not happen. If you don't have a document, it did not happen. Documentation is the bedrock of everything. You need to show me a paper, show me a document, show me a proof that you've done it. So in Haccp, you need to have a strong documentation process. So when you put those 5 preliminary tasks that we discussed earlier, please, plus the 7, that makes the 7 steps. That is why every now and then you see some people say the 7 steps of Haccp or the 12 steps. Either way, a good element of a Haccp program must include these 12 steps of Haccp. So how does Haccp work? What is this Haccp? How does it operate? It is divided into 2 sections. We've got the basic class and we've got the advanced class, or what they call the level 2 or the level 3. The basic class, which is the level 2, is all about developing and implementing a Haccp system. So in a level 2 class, what we teach you is about how do you read and write and develop a food safety system based on the Haccp concept. That's all about. Then the level 3, it's all about verifying, validating, and auditing of a Haccp system. I call that, are we doing the right things? And are we doing the right things correctly? It's about making sure that what you are doing is value added. What you are doing brings purpose. What you are doing is ensuring the safety of the product. So that's the difference between the level 2, which is about reading and writing a Haccp plan, and level 3, making sure that what you are doing is the right thing. So in summary, as I begin to wind down, the Haccp concept is about understanding what can make this product unsafe. Where can this occur? Then how do I make sure that I eliminate that in my operation? It's about determining everything that could go wrong. You design your process to prevent it. You run your process that way, and you have enough documentation to support that. So let's talk about the certification. Haccp certification is divided into 2. We've got the individual certification, where you as a person, you're certified that you can read, write, develop, verify, validate, audit a Haccp system. Then we have the Fastlane certification, where the food safety plan that you have prepared in your facility is now audited, and you now certify your plan to your facility, where we come to your location and we now verify, validate, and audit the food safety parameters in your facility to be sure that your facility meets international standard. So the 2 types of, like I said, is the individual one, where you as a person, you're certified as a person that can read, write, develop a Haccp plan. But the facility one, where your facility is now certified that the plan you have designed meets standards. Why should you as a person now get certified? Why do you need this class? you need to attend a certification class to gain practical skills necessary for food safety. You will learn the details, the meats, the poultry, the details of food safety in a Haccp class. You learn all aspects of hazard analysis. How do you do a thorough hazard analysis? You learn that. Then you stay relevant in your profession. You become more effective in your handling operation. When we come to class, we go very granular. We go into the nitty-gritty of all operations, and we lay bare for you to learn what is food safety on a global pedestal. Then your certification meets international standards. It gives you a competitive edge over your peers in a job search. It increases your earning potential, and it opens doors for career advancement. And lastly, you are investing in your future. So it's very, very important for you to get this certification. That's for the individual one. Then for the facility one, why should your facility be Haccp certified? It improves opportunity for food safety. Number one, like I said, it helps you to be able to sleep at night, know that you are producing good food. It reduces waste because you are not reworking. You are not putting product on hold. You are not downgrading product. You are selling your product first prime, making good money. Increases your productivity and revenue. Then it opens your operation to international trade. You establish professional credibility. You increase competitive advantage. Then the assurance of food safety and quality. Then they enhance your company image. You see, we see it here in the US, and I think I've seen it in Europe a couple of places where facility will put on their packaging, produced in a Haccp certified facility. They produce that Haccp certified facility. You could use that logo on your packaging to show that your facility meets international requirement of food safety. So what am I trying to sell today? We have a 3-day advanced Haccp class coming up. So it's very, very good for you if you have the ability to come to this 3 days advanced a basic Haccp class. What do we do in this 3-day class? This class is designed for everybody, all persons employed in food and food-related business who are directly or indirectly involved in producing food. So if you have anything to do with food, this is a class that you should come. This is where we talk about food safety. What your role is it? How do you support it? And why you should produce safe food in your facility. So this 3 days basic class is a very good one, and I recommend everybody to have it. Same with the advanced class. So if you are a food safety team leader, if you're a food safety manager, plant manager, quality assurance, quality control managers, anything, if you have advanced role in food safety in your facility, I recommend this class highly, that you come for the 3 days basic class and the 2 days advanced class. So why should you come to this class with the food update? Number one, the food update class is an accredited class by the International Haccp Alliance here in the US. Our certification is globally recognized, and we've got global subject matter experts. Our instructors are top-notch. This class is designed in accordance with the Codex standards. It means the national and international accepted Haccp standards. This class is really hands-on, very detailed, very interactive. You gain practical knowledge. We'll work with a lot of food products, and we'll work with a lot of examples that let you understand why food safety is important and what you need to do in your facility to make it safe. So as I begin to wind down, this certification class is one I wholeheartedly recommend to you. So if you handle food at any level, I recommend that you come for this food. The next class is coming up very soon. So if you have information, this is the contact.